I never believed my wife would betray me. For 8 years I thought I knew everything about Emily. I knew how she took her coffee, how she smiled when she lied about being fine, how she always touched her wedding ring when she was nervous. But that night, when her phone lit up on the kitchen counter, I learned something new. She had secrets. I had just come home early from a business trip. My flight landed before midnight and I wanted to surprise her. I bought flowers at the airport, the same white roses she carried on our wedding day. The house was quiet when I opened the door. Too quiet. The lights were off downstairs, but I saw a soft glow coming from the kitchen. Her phone was vibrating on the counter. Again and again. I walked closer. A message appeared on the screen. I miss you already. Last night was perfect. For a few seconds I couldn't move. My hand tightened around the flowers until the stems bent. My chest felt empty, like someone had opened a door inside me and let all the warmth escape. Then another message appeared. Does he suspect anything? I stared at those words until they burned into my mind. There was another man. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run upstairs and wake her up, demand answers, break everything in that perfect little house we built together. But I didn't. Because right then something colder than anger took over. I placed the flowers on the counter. I took a photo of the messages. Then I walked upstairs. Emily was asleep in our bed, peaceful, beautiful, wrapped in the blanket I bought her last winter. For years that sight made me feel lucky. Now it made me feel stupid. I stood there in the dark, watching the woman I loved sleep like she hadn't destroyed my life. And I made myself a promise. I would not beg. I would not cry in front of her. I would not give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I was going to find out everything. And when the truth came out, it would not be quietly. The next morning, Emily kissed me like nothing had happened. "Welcome home," she whispered. I looked into her eyes and smiled. Good to be back. She didn't know that while she slept, I had already checked the phone bill. One number appeared again and again. Late nights. Long calls. Messages when I was out of town. I saved everything. Screenshots. Times. Dates. Names. By noon I knew the man's name. Ryan Cole. My best friend. The man who stood beside me at my wedding. The man who toasted my marriage. The man who called me brother. I sat in my office staring at his contact photo on my screen, remembering every barbecue, every dinner, every time he laughed in my house while secretly destroying it. That was when the pain changed. It stopped being heartbreak. It became strategy. That evening, Emily told me she had plans with the girls. I nodded. "Have fun," I said. She smiled, grabbed her purse and left. 5 minutes later, I was in my truck, following her from a distance. She didn't drive to a restaurant. She didn't meet any girls. She pulled into the parking lot of a small hotel outside town. And Ryan's black SUV was already there. I parked across the street and watched them meet near the entrance. He hugged her. She laughed. Then they walked inside together. I sat there in silence, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. That was the moment I understood something. They weren't just cheating. They were laughing at me. They thought I was blind. They thought I was weak. They thought I would never find out. I took one photo. Then another. And another. By the time they disappeared inside, I already knew how this would end. Not with shouting. Not with begging. Not with violence. No. I would let them feel safe. I would let them believe they had won. And then, when the room was full, when everyone was watching, when there was nowhere left to hide, I would show the world exactly who they were. For the next 2 weeks, I became the man they expected me to be. Quiet. Busy. Trusting. Emily would sit across from me at dinner, smiling over a glass of wine, asking about my work like she cared. Ryan would text me about football, business, and weekend plans like he wasn't sneaking around with my wife behind my back. I answered both of them like nothing had changed. That was the hardest part. Not the betrayal itself. The performance. Every morning I kissed Emily goodbye. Every afternoon I watched her lie. Every night, I lay beside her while my mind replayed that hotel in trance again and again. But I didn't confront her. Because I needed more than proof. I needed timing. Ryan was not just my best friend. He was also my business partner. Together, we had built a real estate investment company from nothing. My money started it. My connections helped it grow. But Ryan was the face people trusted at events, dinners, and charity fundraisers. He loved attention. He loved applause. So I decided that was where the truth belonged. in front of the people he performed for. 3 weeks after I found the messages, our company hosted its annual charity gala. It was Ryan's favorite night of the year. Investors, local business owners, lawyers, clients, friends, family, everyone would be there. Emily had already bought a black dress for the evening. She kept talking about it like she was excited. I let her be excited. On the morning of the gala, Ryan called me. "Big night, brother," he said. Brother. The word almost made me laugh. "Big night," I answered. "You ready for the speech?" I looked down at the folder on my desk. Inside were printed screenshots, hotel receipts, call logs, and photos. "Yeah," I said calmly. "I'm ready." That evening, Emily looked perfect. Too perfect. She stood in front of the mirror, putting on earrings, smiling at her own reflection. "What do you think?" she asked. I looked at her black dress, her red lipstick, the necklace I bought her on our anniversary. "You look unforgettable," I said. For the first time in weeks, I meant it. Because after tonight, nobody would forget her. At the gala, Ryan moved through the room like a king. He shook hands. He laughed loudly. He placed his hand on my shoulder in front of guests. Emily stood beside me, smiling like a loyal wife. The whole room believed the lie. That was what made it powerful. Halfway through the evening, Ryan stepped onto the stage to welcome everyone. The lights dimmed. The crowd went quiet. He gave his usual speech about trust, loyalty, and community. Trust, loyalty, community. Every word felt like poison. Then he said, "And now I want to invite my partner, my best friend, and the man I trust more than anyone, David Miller, to say a few words." The room applauded. Emily looked at me with a soft smile. Ryan handed me the microphone, and I walked onto the stage. For a second, I stood under the spotlight and looked around the room. Investors, friends, clients, Emily, Ryan. Everyone was watching. Perfect. I smiled. "Thank you, Ryan," I said. "That introduction means a lot. Especially the part about trust." A few people chuckled politely. Ryan smiled beside me. Emily tilted her head, still unaware. I continued. "Trust is interesting. You can build a company on it. You can build a marriage on it. You can even build a friendship on it." The room became still. Ryan's smile weakened. Emily's face changed first. She knew my voice. She knew when something was wrong. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the small remote connected to the screen behind me. Ryan whispered, "David?" I ignored him. For years, I believed I was surrounded by people who loved me. People who respected me. People who would never betray me. I clicked the remote. The large screen behind me lit up. The first image appeared. Emily entering the hotel. Ryan beside her. A wave of silence moved through the room. Not gasps yet. Just silence. The kind that happens when people realize something terrible is unfolding and they cannot look away. Emily stood frozen near the front table. Ryan turned completely pale. I clicked again. Call logs. Messages. Dates. Hotel records. Another photo. Then another. I did not shout. I did not insult them. I simply let the truth speak. Then I looked at Ryan. "My best friend," I said into the microphone. "My business partner. The man who stood beside me at my wedding." Ryan opened his mouth, but no words came out. I looked at Emily. "And my wife." Her eyes filled with tears. She shook her head, silently begging me to stop. But she had not stopped when she had the chance. So neither did I. I turned back to the crowd. "Tonight was supposed to be about trust," I said. "So I thought everyone deserved to know who they were trusting." Nobody moved. Nobody clapped. Nobody spoke. Ryan stepped toward me, whispering, "Please? Not here." I looked at him and lowered the microphone for just 1 second. "You chose here," I said quietly. "Every time you smiled in my face." Then I raised the microphone again. "As of tonight, I am removing Ryan Cole from all active company operations. Our legal team has already received the documents. Any investor who wants details may speak with my attorney after this event." Ryan looked like the floor had disappeared under him. Emily covered her mouth and began crying. I placed the microphone back on the stand. Then I looked at both of them one last time. "I lost a wife," I said. "And I lost a brother. But I did not lose myself." Then I walked off the stage. Behind me, the room exploded into whispers. I didn't look back. Not once. The first person to follow me outside was Emily. I heard her heels behind me before I heard her voice. "David, wait." I kept walking through the hotel lobby, past the marble floors, past the gold lights, past the guests pretending not to watch through the glass doors of the ballroom. David, please? I stopped near the entrance. Outside the night was cold. Rain tapped against the windows. My car waited at the curb, and for the first time in weeks I felt like I could breathe. Emily grabbed my arm. I looked down at her hand. She let go immediately. Her makeup was ruined. Tears ran down her face. The perfect woman from the mirror was gone, and in her place stood someone terrified of consequences. Please, she whispered. You didn't have to do that. I stared at her. That's what you're sorry for? She blinked. You're not sorry you betrayed me. You're sorry people saw it. Her lips trembled. It wasn't like that. I almost laughed. That was the sentence every liar used when the truth became too clear. It wasn't like what? I asked. Like the messages? Like the hotel? Like the phone calls? Like Ryan? She looked away. For years I had watched Emily argue, charm, explain, and control every room she entered. Now she had nothing. No excuse sounded clean enough. No tear could erase the screen behind that stage. I made a mistake, she said. No, I answered. You made a plan. A mistake happens once. You made choices for months. Her face collapsed. I didn't want to hurt you. But you were willing to. That silenced her. Behind us, the ballroom doors opened. Ryan stepped into the lobby. His tie was loose. His face was pale. He looked less like a successful businessman and more like a man whose mask had been ripped off in public. David, he said quietly, we need to talk. I turned toward him. No, Ryan. We needed to talk before you walked into a hotel with my wife. He swallowed hard. I know I messed up. You didn't mess up, I said. You betrayed me in my own house. You sat at my table. You called me brother. People had started gathering near the doors now. They were trying to look casual, but everyone was listening. Ryan noticed too. His voice dropped lower. Don't destroy everything we built. That was when I finally smiled. Not because I was happy. Because I understood him completely. He wasn't afraid of losing me. He was afraid of losing the company. The money. The reputation. The image. You should have thought about that before you built your secret life on top of mine, I said. He stepped closer. David, please. Let me resign quietly. We can handle this privately. I looked through the glass doors at the guests inside. Investors were talking in tight circles. One of our attorneys was already on the phone. Ryan's wife stood near a table, crying into a napkin while two women tried to comfort her. I looked back at him. Private? I asked. You had months of private? Tonight is the first honest thing you've had in a long time. Ryan's eyes hardened for half a second. There he was. The real Ryan. Not the brother. Not the partner. The man who thought charm could save him. You think this makes you strong? He whispered. You humiliated your own wife in public. I stepped closer until only a few inches separated us. No, I said. I exposed two people who thought loyalty was a costume. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. A black car pulled up outside. My lawyer, Mark, stepped out, holding a leather folder under his arm. I had called him before I went on stage. He knew exactly when to arrive. Emily saw him and froze. Ryan saw him too. For the first time that night, they both understood. The stage was only the beginning. Mark walked up beside me. Everything is ready, he said. I nodded. He handed one envelope to Emily, then another to Ryan. Emily looked at the envelope like it was dangerous. What is this? She asked. Divorce papers, I said. Her hand shook. And a notice that you are not to enter the house without scheduling it through my attorney. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Ryan ripped open his envelope. His eyes moved quickly across the page. Then he looked up at me. You can't remove me like this. I can, I said. And I did. Mark spoke calmly. The partnership agreement allows immediate suspension in cases of conduct damaging to the company. The evidence is documented. You'll receive formal notice tomorrow morning. Ryan looked trapped. Emily started crying harder. David, please, she said. Don't do this. We can fix this. I looked at the woman I once planned to grow old with. For a moment I saw the Emily from our wedding day. The white dress. The nervous smile. The promise. Then I saw the hotel door closing behind her and Ryan. And the memory disappeared. There is no we anymore, I said. She stepped toward me. I love you. Those words should have hurt. Instead they sounded empty. You loved the life I gave you, I said. You loved the house, the security, the image. But you didn't love me enough to protect me from humiliation. She covered her face with both hands. Ryan turned away, running his hand through his hair. Mark looked at me. Car is ready. I nodded and walked toward it. Emily called my name one more time. This time I didn't stop. I got into the back seat, closed the door, and looked through the rain-covered window. Emily stood under the hotel lights, holding divorce papers in both hands. Ryan stood a few feet away from her, holding his own envelope, suddenly alone. They had risked everything for each other. And now neither of them looked like a prize. As the car pulled away, I finally let my hands shake. Not from fear. Not from regret. From release. For weeks, I had carried their secret like a knife in my chest. Now the knife was out. The wound was still there. But at least I was no longer bleeding in silence. The next morning, my phone looked like a crime scene. Missed calls. Messages. Voicemails. Emily called 17 times before sunrise. Ryan called once. That told me everything. Emily was panicking because she lost control. Ryan was calculating because he still thought there was a way out. I didn't answer either of them. I sat alone at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold, staring at the silence of my house. For years that kitchen had been full of life. Emily singing badly while cooking. Ryan laughing at my jokes during dinner. Friends gathered around the island. Wine glasses. Holiday lights. Plans for the future. Now every corner felt staged. Like I had been living inside a movie set built by liars. At 8 a.m. Mark called. "You need to be ready," he said. "For what?" "For Ryan to fight back." I looked at the divorce papers still sitting on the table. "He has no ground." "Maybe not legally," Mark said. "But desperate men don't always fight with facts." He was right. By noon, the first rumor started spreading. Ryan told several investors that I had created a public scene because of a personal breakdown. He said I was emotional, unstable, and trying to destroy the company out of jealousy. Jealousy. That word almost made me laugh. He betrayed me, then called my reaction the problem. By 2 p.m., 3 investors had requested a meeting. By 3 p.m., Ryan sent a long email to the board. He claimed the evidence was misleading. He claimed the hotel visits were business-related. He claimed Emily had been helping him prepare a surprise anniversary event for me. That was the moment I realized something. Public shame wasn't enough for Ryan. He needed public correction. So I gave it to him. At 5 p.m., I walked into our main conference room with Mark and 2 senior partners from our legal team. The board members were already there. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked angry. Some looked curious. Ryan sat at the far end of the table. He wore a navy suit, clean shirt, perfect hair. The mask was back on. When I entered, he stood. "David," he said softly, like he was greeting a wounded friend. "I'm glad you came." I looked at the chair across from him and sat down. "Start." One board member cleared his throat. "Ryan says there may have been a misunderstanding." I placed a flash drive on the table. There wasn't. Ryan's eyes locked onto it. For the first time, I saw fear break through his performance. Mark connected the drive to the screen. The room went quiet. Not because of pictures. Not because of messages. Because of money. The first file was not about Emily. It was about Ryan. Bank transfers. Hidden expenses. Company cards used for private hotel stays. Consulting fees sent to a shell company. Unauthorized payments signed while I was traveling. Ryan had been stealing from the company long before he stole from my marriage. The room changed instantly. People can forgive ugly personal drama. They do not forgive stolen money. Ryan stood up. "That is not what it looks like." I leaned back. "That sentence seems to be your entire defense." Mark clicked to the next slide. Dates. Amounts. Receipts. Internal approvals. Emails. Every lie had a timestamp. Every excuse had a document waiting to kill it. One of the board members turned to Ryan. "Did you authorize these transfers?" Ryan looked around the room, searching for one friendly face. He found none. "I handled multiple accounts," he said. "Some expenses were classified incorrectly." "Classified incorrectly?" I repeated. I pointed to the screen. "That hotel room was charged as client hospitality." Ryan's face tightened. No one spoke. Then Mark opened the final folder. It contained the partnership agreement. The clause was highlighted. Fraud. Misuse of company funds. Conduct damaging to the business. Immediate removal. Mark did not raise his voice. He did not need to. "Based on these findings, we are recommending full removal of Ryan Cole from executive operations, financial access, investor communications, and board authority pending formal investigation." The vote took less than 10 minutes. Unanimous. Ryan lost everything in the same room where he once bragged about building it. When the meeting ended, he stayed seated while everyone else left. I gathered my papers. He looked up at me. You planned this. I stopped near the door. No, Ryan. You planned this. I just kept the receipts. His eyes were red now. You were my brother. I turned back. That's the part you should have remembered before I had to. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he said the only honest thing I had heard from him in months. I thought you'd never check. There it was. Not regret. Not guilt. Arrogance. I nodded slowly. That was your mistake. I left him there. That evening I returned home alone. Emily's car was parked outside. She was sitting on the porch steps, wrapped in a coat, holding a small box of old photos. I stopped at the walkway. You can't be here without Mark knowing. I know, she whispered. I just wanted to give you this. She stood and placed the box near the door. Inside were photos from our wedding, vacations, birthdays, Christmas mornings. A museum of a life that no longer existed. I didn't know about the money, she said. I believed her. But it didn't matter. You knew enough, I answered. She looked down. I ruined everything. No, I said. You revealed everything. Her eyes lifted to mine. I don't know who I am without you. For years that sentence would have pulled me back. I would have hugged her, comforted her, made her pain more important than mine. But not anymore. That's something you should figure out alone, I said. She cried quietly, but I didn't move toward her. That was the victory no one saw. Not the gala. Not the boardroom. Not Ryan losing his position. The real victory was standing 3 feet from the woman who broke me and no longer needing her apology to survive. Emily wiped her face. Do you hate me? I thought about it. I wanted to say yes. Hate sounded powerful. Clean. Easy. But the truth was heavier. No, I said. I just don't trust you with any part of me anymore. That hurt her more than anger would have. She nodded, picked up her purse and walked to her car. Before she got in, she looked back. I really did love you. I looked at the dark windows of the house behind me. Maybe, I said. But not in a way that protected me. She drove away. This time, I watched until her taillights disappeared. Then I carried the box of photos inside. I didn't throw them away. Not yet. I placed them in the closet, shut the door, and stood in the quiet hallway. For the first time, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt clean. Ryan was exposed. Emily was gone. The company was mine to rebuild. And me? I was still standing. 3 months later, the house no longer felt haunted. At first, every room reminded me of something I had lost. The kitchen reminded me of Emily's fake smile. The living room reminded me of Ryan laughing on my couch. The bedroom reminded me of every night I slept beside a secret. So I changed everything. I painted the walls. I replaced the furniture. I took down every picture that made me feel like a fool for believing in someone. People told me I was erasing the past. They were wrong. I was reclaiming the space. A home should not feel like evidence. It should feel like peace. The divorce moved faster than Emily expected. She tried to slow it down at first,